Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, K9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you each Tuesday at this time. I'm K9 sports director Jason Barr, joined as always by our main anchor, Pat Paris. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Busy day, and it got busier with a big announcement today.
Yeah, last week we went through the Arizona basketball roster and the new additions, and we thought, well, maybe the team's done at this point. They've added some pieces. It looks like they've got a team. But then today we get a big one, transfer from the University of North Carolina, who we're looking at right there, Caleb Love, 6'4" guard. He's played 3 seasons with Carolina, and he had a big run in the NCAA tournament in 2022 when they made it to the championship game and lost to Kansas, I believe. And he's known for that. And 6'4" guard, and I think she's somebody who, Pat, right now, somebody who averaged 17 points a game. He's going to be somebody in the starting lineup for the Wildcats coming up this year.
He's a guy, Jason, I think, unlike any of the guards we've seen, in the last few years, who's a real can create his own shot. He's a guy who can even in an offense where maybe they're going to key on him, he probably will be able to create his own shot. Certainly with Tommy Lloyd's offense, they'll help create shots for him as well. But this is a special talent. I think this is a pretty, major thing. It got headlines on ESPN. That tells you right there that they took notice. He was going to go to Michigan. He's going to transfer to Michigan for his final year. He had some academic transfer issues. He went right back into the portal. Arizona jumped on that chance, and now he's a Wildcat. And I'm very excited, cautiously optimistic, Jason. There were times where he kind of disappeared this last season, as great a player as he can be. I'd like to see that consistency get back to what it was 2 years ago when they made it to the finals.
Look, if somebody's transferring here from a program like North Carolina, there were issues. There's something going on. Not everything was wonderful. You take a look at his physique. He's got a big time, NBA-ish physique. You wonder if there's a connection here because Steve Robinson, the Arizona assistant coach, was an assistant at North Carolina, right? So I'm sure they had a relationship there to begin with.
Could have been involved in the recruiting of him for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And you can kind of see him on the wing with Keyshawn Johnson, who just transferred from San Diego State. I think that's going to be your starting wing for the Arizona basketball team this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this elevates what we thought was going to be an improving team from where we thought it was a month ago into now we're talking about a team that can compete again for a Pac-12 title. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. There's a lot of things have to come together. They're maybe not as good as right now as they were at the end of last season, but we all know last season didn't end very well. So, maybe this is you've got a player.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Pat. I think they might be better right now than they were.
They could be. What I'm thinking about is you've got to have a little bit more of an of that 4 spot, power forward spot.
Well, that's where the weakness is right now. Right.
Yeah. So we're going to have to look at this team differently, Jason, than we did last year. This is not a big man, a 5 and a 4, and then you're trying to supplement with some of the guard play. This is a much smaller team. You might be playing 4 guards and a center, in essence, or 3 guards and a small forward and a center. There may not be a typical 4, a true 4, a power forward. And that's okay. There are not many teams in the Pac-12 can even play that way anyway. So I still think this team, I think this team's got the making of being a special one.
Well, we're going to know in the next 24 hours a little bit more whether or not for sure we can say that Azuolas Tubelis is not coming back.
Correct.
I know you're in the camp that thinks there might be a chance there.
Small, very small.
Okay, yeah. So it's midnight tomorrow night Eastern, which makes it 9 o'clock here, on the West Coast. As we go on right now, it's 3 o'clock. So 24 and 6. We're going to know in 30 hours whether or not Tubelis is coming back. I'm not expecting it. It'd be a pleasant surprise if he does. But certainly, I don't think that's going to be the case. But assuming he doesn't, that goes to what you say. Certainly, Oumar Ballo is the starting center. They're going to need somebody to step up. Okay, whether it's Dylan Anderson who didn't play much last year, or Henry Vesar who didn't play, who was started in the rotation and then was out, or Mateus Krivas who's coming in as a freshman from Lithuania. They're going to need somebody to step in and give minutes, quality minutes. When Oumar Ballo's not on the floor, God forbid he gets in foul trouble, God forbid he gets hurt, or they need Ballo and somebody else in there. So that right now, Pat, yes. And maybe Tommy Lloyd's got another player up his sleeve because, we weren't totally sure that Caleb Love was coming here. but that's the one piece they're missing right now. And I have a little concern about the overall shooting too, outside of Pelle Larsson and a couple other guys.
Yeah, and Caleb Love is a streaky guy too. He could go on a roll and shoot lights out. But again, he's going to be a better shooter than Kerr Kriisa, more consistent than Kerr Kriisa. But maybe, let's hope he continues to develop in his fourth season, his first with the University of Arizona. I'll say this about Azuolas Tubelis. When I made that comment about him coming back, remember that was heading into that combine, those scrimmage games they were playing. He clearly has heard a lot of good things, and maybe he's moved up a little bit on the draft board. So maybe he's mid-second round, and that's good enough for him. We'll find out, as you said, in the next 24 hours whether he comes back to Wildcats. I don't expect that. That's why I said, that's the one gaping hole to me. And maybe it's not, maybe it's not that big of a hole, Jason. As I said, you can play a lot smaller brand of basketball and still do well in the Pac-12. And, they got beat by Princeton. It's not like Princeton had an out of this world 7-footer and an out of this world 6'10" power forward either. They just played great defense. And you've got some defenders that are coming to this roster. You've got some playmakers and Caleb Love. Maybe this is going with a smaller lineup will work this time around.
Yeah, and certainly you don't have a numbers issue, which we did 6 weeks ago when we were wondering, there's only 5 or 6 guys. Where are the players? The players are here, and there's some good ones, and it's it's going to be a completely new team, and we'll see how soon they gel. So
yeah,
I'm definitely a little bit more excited about Arizona basketball today than I was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think that goes for all the Wildcat Nation. But I think we're also a little leery, Jason. This transfer portal stuff. This is 2 years in a row now where we're into summer and we're still building the roster, in essence. At the end of May, last year it was in July. It's a little bit disconcerting to think this is how it's going to be from now on in major college basketball.
Well, that's where we are here in 2023. So that's the situation right now with Arizona basketball. And then something exciting for Arizona baseball. So they did not have a good regular season. They go to the Pac-12 tournament last week, probably what we thought was needing to win all 4 games to make the NCAA tournament. But they win 3. They run rule Stanford, the 8th best team in the country, right? Barely lose to Oregon 5-4 in the championship game. And they get the very last spot in the NCAA tournament. And we've got reaction here of the team. This was what the team, when they found out, last team on that large team getting in to the ESPN on their selection show in the bracket. Let's take a look at Arizona baseball's reaction. That's what it looks like, Pat, when you come down to the wire here, the very last one, and you think your season's done, and now you get to play a few more games, and they're headed to the Fayetteville Regional, where they'll play TCU up first.
Well, and especially when everybody, I know Chip Hill talked about it after they lost that championship game, the guys were all down, and he tried to get them to understand that, they still had a chance. But I think so many people were telling them, you got to win all those games or you're going to come up just short. And I fell into that trap too, Jason. I was so pleasantly surprised when I saw that announcement. I saw their reaction, because I too thought, well, they're probably not going to help the Pac-12 out and give somebody like Arizona, even though Arizona had a heck of a last month. Really, you can go back, Jason, to that regular season, what was a non-conference game. Remember when they played Arizona State up there and they won? They scored 20 runs, remember?
20-0, yeah.
And it was that almost was like a turning point. I think the team, in my estimation, and I'm not close to this team, I'm just a fan like most people. It seemed to me that it gave them confidence to say, you know what? We can win a game any way we want, but most importantly, we're probably going to do it with offense. And that was okay. And from that point on, their offense has just been prolific. It's been impressive to see what they've done. As you mentioned, they run ruled Stanford. That had to, more than anything, open the eyes of the selection committee and kind of put them over the hump.
Well, they do look at the last 10 games a little bit more like basketball used to. And the team that Arizona jumped over was USC and ASU.
ASU. And nothing better than knocking ASU out again, getting in.
So I asked Chip Hale, the coach, the baseball coach for Arizona, if the team any more motivation to say, hey, we belong? Because sometimes that last team that gets in makes a run and does something special. So I asked Chip Hale if the team had any extra motivation, given that they got this extra chance, or if that really doesn't play into things. And here's Chip Hale's answer to that.
No need for extra motivation, and we will prove that we're a good team. We'll play our tails off, and like I said on Saturday night, we played a good game. Oregon beat us. We'll go out and play the best we can play and represent this conference very well.
Yeah, you want to start out with a win against TCU. Arkansas is the third best team in the country. That's not going to be an easy regional for sure to get through Arkansas. But hey, if the bats get hot, the bats get hot. And they've got two really good hitters in Kiko Romero, a local player to Tucson, went to CDO High School, played in the Junior College World Series last year, has hit, as well as anybody would think he would coming from junior college. And Chase Davis, who's a potential very high round draft pick now. And that's who's propelling Arizona's offense.
Chase Davis is impressive when he gets a hold of one, and that grand slam that he hit the other night, that I've never seen a ball get off the bat faster than that. I think it was like 108 miles an hour. It was something else to see, and it was gone off the bat. He's an impressive player. Both of them are, and I think that's what's going to lead this team. You'd like to think that the pitching can be just good enough, but it's the offense that's going to have to propel them.
It was better. The pitching was better.
It was. During
this
stretch, it has been better.
It's been better. So it's going to be Arizona against TCU on Friday in Fayetteville. All right. So we touched on Arizona basketball. We touched on Arizona baseball. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Paris here on the Huddle, KGO9 streaming sports talk show. And of course, the other kind of lingering sports story involving Arizona and the Pac-12 is this whole media rights deal and conference realignment. And it sounds like, things have kind of been heating up a little bit, or at least there's some smoke around Colorado and potentially going to the Big 12. And here's a quote just the other day from Colorado Athletic Director Rick George. And he writes, he says, in a perfect world, we'd love to be in the Pac-12, but we also have to do what's right for Colorado at the end of the day. We'll evaluate things as we move forward. And Pat, you just think about it this way. They were just in the Big 12, right, a decade ago before they came to the Pac-12. To me, it's almost like the Rams moving back to Los Angeles, which was their original home. At this point, it's just going to be about one thing, Pat, and you and I both know what that is, and that's money.
Yeah, it will come down to money. And we've heard similar comments from the athletic directors and school presidents in the Pac-12, as well, as far as we think we're solid. We think we'll stay in the perfect world. We're going to stay together, things like that. But we've also seen schools like the University of Arizona, through reports and CBS Sportsline and other outlets, saying that they behind closed doors been in negotiations too, or at least talks, because you can't sit on the sideline, Jason, and just wait for the Pac-12 to get the deal done. It might not get done, this media rights deal. They've had, they've gone through that exclusive window that expired back in the fall. They wanted to get it done, at no later than the end of basketball season. Well, that's come and gone. And I think that not only is Colorado looking at the Big 12, I think Arizona's looking at the Big 12. Will they bring along Arizona State and Utah if it gets to that? They might. It might be the four corner schools, but nothing's off the table yet. I think you have to. You're responsible to a fan base, to a university, to all those sports teams. You have to be ready to make that shift if things don't go your way with the Pac-12. They may not, Jason. This is dragging on a long time, and the pool of money is drying up. I'm afraid that the Big 12, becomes more and more of a possibility with every passing week.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of anxiety. We had it for 5 years with this basketball team, with the whole bribery deal, hanging over the program, and now it's almost become a cloud in itself. This plus a little bit of the NIL situation and not knowing how that's going to play out long term. Is this going to help schools that maybe are in a bigger city or in a bigger market that can get more advertising for its players, or frankly with with bigger bucks for the football program. And you don't know how that's going to play out. You don't know how this media rights deal is going to play out. And there's definitely a wall of worry, I would say, for sure, if you're an Arizona fan right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a stay tuned thing, but as I said, behind the scenes, they're working on some scenarios that would have them not remain in the Pac-12 if the Pac-12 can't. It's not just a media rights deal, Jason. There's a level set. Okay, the SEC and the Big Ten have these massive contracts with their TV deals, and they get, each school's getting, I'm just throwing this out, $45 million a year or something like that. And then the Big 12 just redid their deal, and each school's getting like $32 million a year. If you can't at least get to $32 million if you're the Pac-12, you're not going to stay. You're not going to stay a conference because, or at least with these members, because that the Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado can go right now and get $32 million from the Big 12. I think that the Pac-12 is really up against it.
How confident are you that the Big 12 wants Arizona and ASU?
Arizona, they want. I'm not so sure they want ASU. I think they take ASU. From what I'm understanding, the marquee teams that they're looking at in the four corners right now are Colorado and Arizona. Kansas wants Arizona bad for basketball. They really want them for football. For cachet, I guess Colorado Buffaloes. That's probably.
But where does that leave Washington and Oregon? Because don't you want, if you're the Big 12, don't you want Oregon? If you're not thinking geographically and you're just thinking money, don't you want Oregon for football?
Yeah, I don't think Oregon has shown any interest in going to the Big 12. I think Oregon and Washington look at, we're Big 10, or if we're not Pac-12 and we're not the current edition of the Pac-12, then we want to go to the Big 10.
It's also strange geographically, Pat.
I know it.
I know. I mean, if you're a student athlete, we've talked about this before, and we're not going to get that deep into this today. You're flying all over the country. It's so unnecessary.
Yep.
I guess if there's so much money involved, there's going to be a private tutor on the airplane seat next to you on the private plane.
You would think so. Speaking of money, we haven't even thought about, and Wally Wildcat's got a comment here, would Arizona leave the Pac-12 without the ASU rivalry coming along? I wouldn't have thought so earlier on, but I've heard how much the Big 12 really is interested in Arizona basketball. So do they split up? I don't know. Would the state legislature step in and mandate they both? Remember, Texas legislature tried to do that when all the Texas schools were heading off to the SEC and breaking that up. But yeah, I don't know. I think you go where the money is, and if the money is attracting Arizona, then they're going to go.
Yeah. All right. So it's. I mean, it remains to be seen.
I was going to bring this up, Jason, real quick. The money. Caleb Love doesn't come here without a good NIL deal, right? He's not going to. If he comes here, he needs. Not only does he need his final year of eligibility, I assume this will be his final year.
No, he's got 2 years left.
Okay, but
one of the years was the COVID. Yeah,
I assume that this is his
right, because there was talk about him going to the NBA draft this past year.
It's a fourth year, probably his last year.
Yeah.
But he tried to go to Michigan. That didn't work out because some credits didn't transfer or something. But Arizona, apparently it's okay, or maybe he's going to take. Who knows? Maybe he's going to take a summer school class. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but. You still wouldn't come here unless you got a good name, image, likeness deal. You just wonder where that money comes from compared to, we always say Tucson's at a little bit of a disadvantage. It's not LA, it's not Seattle, it's not Dallas, so it's not Phoenix. So what I wonder what kind of NIL deal he's got, and
I don't know. There's no way to really know for sure.
No, there's not. I guess we wait and see what his social media looks like.
He's going to get minutes and playing here, and that's what Tommy Lloyd's been able to offer these guys the last month or so with such a thin roster. Hey, you're gonna play. So yeah. So all right. So I thought we'd finish it up here with the NBA and the NHL Finals. NBA certainly is Denver. I think. A favorite against Miami, which has had a run. Who thought they were going to go and win Game 7 after losing 3 straight? What a wacky type of situation, and something nobody could have foreseen. And then in the NHL, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights and their goalie Adin Hill, and for hockey fans or sports fans in Tucson, here's a guy, Adin Hill, played parts of 5 seasons with the Tucson Roadrunners.
Yep.
And he was a good goalie. Was he a big time prospect? I'm not so sure. you don't really spend 5 years in the AHL if you're a big time prospect. But in the NHL, in the postseason, if a goalie gets hot, a goalie gets hot. He made some spectacular saves, and the game they lost, I believe it was game 5, and then game 6, he had a shutout, only 23 saves, but a shutout nonetheless. And Adin Hill's going to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Former Tucson Roadrunner.
Jason, when he was here, if I remember right, they wanted him to be a big time prospect. I mean, they were hoping he'd turn out to be an NHL goalie. Sometimes it just takes guys a little longer at that position. It's one of the hardest positions at a young age to succeed at. And maybe over time you get a little bit better, you get a little wiser, you get better coaching maybe in some cases. And, but you're right. He showed some signs here of being good, and then he showed some signs of not being very good,
Right. He had some stinko games, Pat.
Yeah, exactly. And so he goes up to the Coyotes, same thing. He didn't get a whole lot of game, starting action up there. But when he did, it was a mixed bag. And he ends up with Vegas, and suddenly, he's got a .932 save percentage. If you don't know hockey, that's a really good save percentage in the playoffs, especially. And yeah, it was helped out by that shutout the other day. But they do the same thing in baseball. They do wins above replacement. Well, his wins above replacement in the playoffs means he's more than one extra player above replacement. So in other words, if you were to replace him you'd have to replace him with 2 guys. But anyway, point is, he's playing lights out right now. Couldn't be happier for a guy. You hope it continues for him, but you just kind of wonder, where was this all along? But maybe it just took time.
And like I said, sometimes your goalie just gets hot, right time, right place in the playoffs. Sometimes it's just about opportunity and being in the right place at the right time. And then the NBA, you've got Aaron Gordon, former Arizona Wildcat, played 1 year in the 13-14 season,
right?
If I'm not mistaken. The first of the 2 losses to Wisconsin.
That's it.
And so we start on Arizona basketball, and we'll end on it too. Also, we're seeing on Twitter some talk about the tough schedule. You know what? You want to play some good teams, and that'll help them down the road with seeding and everything. I think the schedule's fine. I'm looking forward.
So you have 5 or 6 losses, heading into the Pac-12 tournament, or 7 losses. It won't matter. What have we learned? It's better to play well at the end of the season than at the beginning of the season. And you take a couple lumps early. Maybe you build a little more toughness. You face a little more adversity. Maybe it makes you better, so that when you're in a game against Princeton and you got the lead, you're able to hold on to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, sure. It didn't end well this past year, that's for sure. Yeah. And I can tell, Pat, you're still a little salty about it. A little salty about it.
You know what? Princeton won another game. You mentioned
it twice in this huddle, Pat.
Yeah, Princeton won another game after that. So let's give credit to Princeton where credit's due. But that's one of those things where you can't lose to Princeton, Jason, in the first round when you're the 2 seed. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all.
Penn's in the baseball. Princeton didn't make the NCAA baseball tournament. It's Penn.
Is that right? I didn't realize.
First time since 1995.
Wow.
And I believe Mark DeRosa may have been on that team.
Mark DeRosa, yeah.
Maybe. He was the quarterback for the football team. And then and then became when chose baseball.
Yeah.
Chose baseball. So I think he was on that team. I'd have to double check. But
well, they end their streak, and Arizona softball unfortunately ended a positive streak on a negative note.
2 streaks this year ended, a streak and a record. So the streak of 35 straight years in the NCAA tournament, and then the record of 47 straight wins. And you know what? Oklahoma deserves the record because they did it in 1 year. And I think you get a little, to me, you get a little, I'm talking about Arizona softball's 47-game winning streak in the 96-97 season. Oklahoma just won 48 in a row, I believe, or whatever, one more. But I give a little bit extra to Oklahoma because they did it in 1 year.
Sure you do. Sure you do. I think that's it. When you do it, but here's the other thing. You also look at it like, okay, you've got a different team the next year potentially, and that's hard to win. Keep a streak going when you're trying to reassemble a team starting off a season. I know it's lesser competition sometimes, but there's pluses and minuses about doing it both ways. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So we'll follow.
Nicole, you want to put Nicole up real quick? Must be a big Knights fan. So
yeah,
go Knights.
Vegas Golden Knights.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice story. I mean, there's an expansion, a fairly young team that's going to win a Stanley Cup, and
well, maybe.
Potentially. I shouldn't say that. You're right.
They made the finals their first year, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
they did. But look how good that can happen in hockey. That doesn't necessarily happen in other sports when expansion teams come along.
Yeah, no, I think the Vegas fans are spoiled. I mean, I'm from New Jersey.
They are.
No,
but wait till the A's move there. They've only won 10 games this year.
I'm from New Jersey, and we got the Colorado Rockies hockey team in '83, was it?
Yeah.
And we were terrible for years.
Yeah.
I would listen to the games going to sleep on the radio, and I remember when the other team would commit a penalty and the Devils would be on the power play, I'd be like, oh, good. At least for the next 2 minutes, they won't get scored on.
Not to go too deep in the weeds here, but remember all the expansion in the NHL happened in the late 90s, if you want to look it up, or late 60s. I'm sorry, the late 60s.
It wasn't expansion, it was a team moving. Yeah.
Yes, that was a team moving. But
it took years for them to be any good.
The expansion in the late 60s, though, they changed the rules after that because the Penguins and especially the St. Louis Blues were so good. The St. Louis Blues made the finals 4 straight years, their first 4 straight years. They lost all 4 of them, but they made the finals all 4 of their first 4 years. They changed the rules about entering the NHL and the draft lottery after that.
Okay. Some good history there.
Yeah.
All right, Pat. Well, this has been the Huddle, KGUN9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you almost every Tuesday. We take a couple off in the summer. And so thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it live here or on delay on all the KGUN9 streaming platforms. So Pat, thanks so much.
You're on vacation next week, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't really committed here because we're trying for an interview with somebody.
Oh, okay.
And if the interview is next week and that's when they can do it, you could either go solo or go with Ryan. So that's why I didn't want to say if we'll be back here next week for sure or we won't.
Well, they need to stay tuned, as they say.
Stay tuned. We might be back, but it won't be me the next 2 weeks.
Alex Steininger, it is not Tom Brady. That we can assure you. Alex Steininger, not Tom Brady.
No. So
then his next one.
Well, he's still in the news though about whether or not he's done playing or whether or not he's going to be in the booth. I still don't see him in the booth, but we'll see. Let's not get off topic here. We're out of time anyway. All right, we're out of time. We got to go. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.